Before we start this video like we normally would, I want to tell a story. About 13 years ago, I was just becoming a teenager, a young pugzer only aged 13. I just moved into a new house and it was summertime, only this is the time when my life got fully messed up. I had just either developed or exacerbated generalized anxiety disorder, as well as panic disorder due to a worsening of my emetophobia, a fear of throwing up. For around a month, I was bedbound because every day I would get up and panic and have panic attacks so bad that I would have to rush to the bathroom and sit there for hours in a panic attack because I felt like I was going to throw up. I never did, but that made it worse because I never had to face my fear. Anyway, the only thing I could do for months was sit in bed all day and watch YouTube videos. I was a fan of PewDiePie, Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, you know who they are. But at the time, PewDiePie played an RPG Maker horror game called Ib. This was the first time that any game ever made me feel unsettled instead of scared. I explained this in my first ever video essay on fear and hunger, but Stephen King once said that there were 3 types of horror. Gross out horror, things like extreme blood and gore, which have games like Until Dawn, Outlast, or Dead Space. Then there are games like startling horror, which jump-scary games kind of fit into. Games that exist mostly through jump scares, and after you get scared, it's over. Games like Five Nights at Freddy's, Slender, or games like that. Then there is disturbing horror, my favorite type of horror. Things that just stick with you. Horror that just seems not quite right. Unsettling things that exist within the spaces in between the lines of the game. Games like Silent Hill, Fear and Hunger, Lisa the Painful, and Doki Doki Literature Club are among these. Ib was Little Pugzer's first foray into that type of horror. And also, real quick, all the footage I'm using in this video is from the Ib remake, so there are slight differences from the original, like updated graphics or slight variations in how to get endings. You see, Ib was a game made back in 2012, developed by a developer named Corey. And unlike a lot of the standard RPG Maker games from around that time, like Awoni, The Witch's House, and The Crooked Man, this one really stuck with me because the atmosphere is so unnatural and foreign feeling. To give an example to my audience that knows me from the Fear and Hunger videos, most of this game gives up the vibe that The Void does from Fear and Hunger 1. Unnatural feeling areas, a peek behind the curtain, like you're not supposed to be seeing what you're seeing in this game. For my non-Fear and Hunger audience, I want you to imagine yourself as a child. Now imagine that you go into an abstract and absurdist art exhibition and then get trapped there all night alone. All alone. That is the vibe this game gives, as that's pretty much the story of the game itself. You play as Ib, a 9-year-old girl who wanders off too far in an art exhibit and enters the world of Guaterna, an art exhibit for that artist, Guaterna. An unnatural second art exhibit in between reality and the work of fiction is there as well, a limbo almost, and you somehow slip into it. You meet other characters, and unfortunately there's no combat, but there's an interesting health system and a lot of unsettling puzzles. Now, remember this game was made a while ago, so the gameplay isn't up to par with some of the best RPG Maker games like Fear and Hunger or Lisa the Painful, but the atmosphere is completely unique in Ib, even to that of Fear and Hunger. And just like the Fear and Hunger video, I want to say that the sound design of this game is also immaculate. The music, for its time, is on the level of Fear and Hunger. In fact, it has a very similar vibe to it. Very unsettling tracks with a few beautifully hand-played ones in there as well. And for that matter, like the Fear and Hunger video, I will only be using tracks from the game in this video. So if you hear a track you like in the background in this video, it's from Ib. The sound effects of this game are also very loud, but in a good way. If you weren't prepared, it might actually jump scare you every once in a while. And the last thing I want to touch on before we get to the summary is that there are 7 different endings. This means that there are slight differences between every playthrough. There's a very specific set of circumstances that are not shown anywhere that determine which ending you get. Some characters can die and some will live, and it changes the ending. I will be going how to get every single ending after I go through an average playthrough and walkthrough, which we will get into right now. In the early afternoon, under a gray sky, Ib and her parents were on their way to an art gallery. Ib's mom will then ask if she has her handkerchief that she got from her birthday, and to keep it safe with her. You will then walk into a bright white art gallery with nice classical sounding music. Ib's mom will say that you are here with your parents to see the artwork from an artist named Guartena. Ib's mom will say, in addition to the paintings, there are also sculptures and other types of art exhibits here too, so even someone as young as Ib could probably find it enlightening. As Ib's parents go to get pamphlets and look around the front desk, Ib will ask to wander around by herself for a bit. Her mother will say that's fine, but be very quiet. Although she says it is Ib, so she probably doesn't have to worry about her being loud. Now you are actually allowed to play the game. You can check on any of the art exhibits here on these 3 floors. You have paintings, sculptures, and exhibits. None of them matter at the moment, but if you want to, you can see some cool stuff so you can look around. You may notice some of the pieces have question mark, question mark, question mark in the titles. This is because of a unique thing in this game. Remember, Ib is 9 years old. She cannot read big words, so the bigger words in this game, unless you have an adult in your party, cannot be read at all. You can also talk to any of the people standing around, and you can see some interesting works around, and by talking to people, you may be able to get some insight into the life and works of Guartena. To progress, head up to the 3rd floor. You will see a huge painting that is slightly different from the rest. It's more unnatural looking than the others. If you look at this one, it is called question mark, question mark, question mark, world. Once you look at it, the lights will flicker. Strange. All the music will cut out, leaving you only with sound effects. Go back downstairs to any of the floors and notice you are now alone in the gallery. You might be able to see some more artworks that people were blocking before, but look around and go to the lobby and see that your parents are also now nowhere in sight. Take a right when you get to the lobby and look at this anglerfish painting on the ground. Look at it, and its name is called question mark, question mark, question mark of the deep. The description of it says, a world where man can never stand to question mark that world. I decided to question mark it within the canvas. After looking at it, you will hear footsteps. But no one is here, right? It sounds like it's coming from above you. Go back upstairs to the 2nd floor, where a loud jump scare with someone banging on the 2nd window will happen. And some of the other exhibits may display some strange characteristics now, like a fruit still life actually dropping a fruit on the floor. Then you can go to the 3rd floor with the question mark world painting. Strangely now, blue paint leaks under the frame. Well, that's probably not good. After that, the blue dripping has become writing on the wall. It says, I'll show you a secret spot. Blue footprints will now be on the floor, and it will lead you to where you need to go into the next exhibit. That anglerfish painting now seems to have a barrier removed, and blue footprints lead into it. It would seem you're supposed to go in, right? Go there, and Ib will sink into the painting, beginning the real game. You will come to in the blue area. Each area of the world of Guartena has a color, so it's easy to track where you are. The walls and floor will be variations of that color. The blue area here is very short. You can see paintings on the wall. On the walls, come is written over and over, and not in the funny way. Going left will show you a locked door, but if you go right, there is a rose in a vase. This is your life system. The more petals of this rose you lose in the upper left-hand corner of your screen, the lower your health. If anything happens to the rose, such as it getting damaged or the life of the flower in any way getting compromised, the same thing will happen to you. As the game says, if the rose withers, so do you. Push the vase to the right and go in the door and pick up the blue key on the ground. Doing so will change the painting in front of you to a kind of stereotypical creepy one. Leaving the room, the walls will no longer be littered with the word come, but the word thief instead. Follow the letters and they will lead you to the left door and into the green area. To the left of this room is paintings of various bugs, and to the right is various paintings of the life cycle of a butterfly. And near those, there's a room where you cannot cross because there's a gap. There is also an ant on the ground who will say he wants to see his painting. Going north, you will see a sign that says, "Beware of edges." If you do not listen and go near the edges of this room, ants will grab at you, grabbing petals off the rose and in turn losing your health. At the top of the corridor, there is an ant painting that you can take off and a locked door. You can take the ant painting with you and show it to the ant, who will thank you, and then you can take it to the right room with the gap from earlier. You can place the painting down and walk across it. Stepping on it will kill the ant, and blood will come out of it. Leaving the other side of the room will show you the final stage of the butterfly's life cycle, it being eaten by the spider. The green key is here though. Picking it up will bring this statue to life near you, and you will have to leave fast or you'll get hurt. This key is to the north in the north corner of the green area, where you can leave this area. You will then be in the yellow area. In this cat-shaped room, there's a room to the left and to the right, with an indent for a fish in the center of the room. The only way to progress is to find the fish. Going right, there is a storage closet. Searching everything will result in nothing, but there is a fish piece placed on a cabinet. The only way to get it is to push a stool in the corner of the room. But when you get close, the stool will grow legs. No matter what you do to the stool, it will not let you catch it. The only way to fix this predicament is to inspect the stool once again. It will notify you that the stool only has one shoe on. In the same room, one of the things you could have inspected was a shoebox, which before had nothing of note in it, but after you inspect the stool, you can grab a shoe out of it and give it to the stool. This will let you follow the stool, and you can tell it to stay in front of the dresser, allowing you to grab the fish tail. Well, that's one half of the fish. Time to go to the left room. This room is called the hide and seek room. This room is important, and be careful in this room. There is 8 pillars here. The first one has a stick man with the writing under it that says, "Play hide and seek?" The goal here is to find the stick man in one of the other pillars. Some of the other pillars have damaging things to you, and one of them will be the right one, obviously with the stick man. But be extremely careful. One of these pillars holds a disturbing painting of Ib falling down and dying. If you get this one, this can lock you out of or into certain endings. It'll do absolutely nothing right now but be an unsettling visual, but remember where this is for later. Find the stick man and he will tell you, "Good job, go north to get the head of the fish." You can grab it, combine both pieces to get the full fish. Lock the fish in place in the cat room and it will do this. A passage will open up with cat noises and you can continue. North, there is another yellow room. This one's pretty open. In front of you, there is a plant, and on the left, a painting of a face that will spit at you and damage you if you walk past it. To the right of this room, there is a newspaper on the ground that says, "Just when you think you forgot," which right now seemingly means nothing. In the right wing, there is a mouth that will bite you if you talk to it. In the north wing, there's a bunch of dolls hanging from their feet. A weird visual, but nothing dangerous here. The left wing will be called the Liar's Room. Inside there will be 6 paintings. Each will have text under them. This is one of those puzzles where only one single of the paintings will be telling the truth. Figure out which one it is and go north into the next room, which has a grid. Find the spot on the ground which the only truth painting said. Lift it up and under will be a water spout. Spin it and you will hear commotion in the previous room. All the paintings, but the truthful one, seem to have destroyed the truth painting. Blood splatters all over, and everywhere text just says "liar" all over. Go back to the north wing and a doll will fall down. Under where the doll was is another water spout. Turn it. Near the mouth we talked about earlier, there's a third spout. Turn that one too. That tree from the beginning is now fully grown and you can grab the blue fruit from it. But when you go towards the mouth, another hand will come out near the walls and grab your petals again. This is the reason for the note that said, just when you think you forgot. Take the blue fruit to the mouth and give it to it, and it will open. Go through the mouth to the final yellow room, where there's a sequence of guillotine paintings. You go forward and the guillotine goes up and up and up in a sequence of paintings, until the final painting doesn't have the machine on it at all. If you're not careful, a real guillotine will drop on your head and insta-kill you with a loud sound. Go south to the red area. The first room here isn't all that important as far as I can tell, but there's a couple new paintings to look at and a hidden hallway that shows another new painting to look at. A more creepy one than usual, but as far as I can tell, this is just for an achievement for looking at all the artwork. The next room has a few interesting paintings, like a blue heart with an arrow in it, a peacock pattern, a smoking aristocrat, 2 red and blue melted people, and other things. However, in the top right of the corner, there is a painting that suspiciously looks like Eve's mother, but I truly believe that's a coincidence. Inspecting this painting and walking away will have her break out of the painting and crawl at you. You will have to loop her like a Dead by Daylight killer and go back to where she fell down, and a key will be there. Grab it and you can enter the locked room. In this room, there's a library of books. One asks, is Ib having fun? Another is a crudely drawn crayon drawing of a bunch of girls playing that game where you cook a cake with a coin in it, and whoever finds it is lucky. They do this, and one of the girls accidentally eats the coin in the cake. The girl who cooked it said it was fine, but her mother says she can't find her keys. But she found this weird coin, meaning that the girl who ate the cake accidentally ate her mother's keys. The main character takes a knife and cuts out the keys from her friend's stomach, saying she guesses she was just as careless as her friend. Then, now, the reason and themes of this, or any relevance to the story, I have no clue, but after you watch this strange storybook thing, the door unlocks to the next room. This room has a vase of water, which I haven't mentioned up to this point because it didn't really matter, but these are like health refillables. You can put your rose in it and get back to full health. But the reason this one is here is for a bit later. There are 2 ways you can go from this room, left or right. The right, you can find, finally, another human, but he seems to be dead or close to dead. A purple-haired man in a cool-looking coat. Trying to wake him up does nothing. Talking to him does nothing. However, if you observe him closely, you will see he is gripping a key. The only other thing of note in this room is a mannequin in front of a door, which you are too weak to move it. Going left from that first room is another room, which more artwork and a blue flower petal will be on the ground, as well as a window near the next room, which is a locked door. But you can enter it now because you got the key from that man. In this room, a blue painted woman is picking apart a blue rose. If you get close to her, she will run at you. Once again, loop her and leave the room. Doing so will have the blue woman break through the window, which is probably the biggest jump scare in the game, although this game isn't really about jump scares. It's more about the atmosphere and vibes when it comes to horror. But go back into that room and grab the little blue rose, and head back to that man. On the way, place the blue rose in that water to refill its health, and then give the blue rose to the man, and he will wake up immediately saying, "It's weird. The horrible pain he had has faded." He will get up and freak out, thinking Ib is one of the red women paintings. Only after Ib doesn't attack him does he realize that Ib is a person from the original gallery. He's elated and relieved. He's been stuck here for hours fighting off the horrible gallery exhibits. He says he's been through most of the same things she has, down to the roses, where the pain runs through him if the petals get plucked off. He says that he thought he was going to die here when he lost it. He says anyone would go crazy if they stayed in here too long, and they should stick together from here on out. This man says, oh, it was very rude of him, but he never asked her name. He says his name is Gary, with 2 R's. Ib says her name is Ib. Gary says it's dangerous for a kid to wander alone here, so stick with him. Gary then gets startled by a painting spitting at him, and he says he just got startled, and bizarre things happen like that here all the time. He will then join your party. From here on out, you can read any painting you want, and you can even go back and look at any other paintings and talk to Gary about them as well. For a certain ending, you should go back through the entire game and do this for every painting. You can also now move all the statues in the way of doors as well, because Gary is strong enough to move them. Going through here will meet you with the gray area now, my least favorite area. The first room here is a room with 2 paintings of a bride and a groom, along with 2 hands called the left hand of the bride and the right hand of the bride. You can do nothing with them as of right now other than hurt yourself by losing petals, and go north. It opens up into a big puzzle room. The first thing in here is a door with a giant cat in front of it. If you touch it, you will lose health. Another room to the left of that is a room with teapots. It's a classic puzzle where you have to push the teacups to their specific teapots, but they will always go as far as they can in the direction you push them, like a Pokemon ice puzzle. It's generally easy, but let's just say, never ask a woman her age, never ask a man how much money he makes, and never ask how long it took Pugzer to figure out the teapot puzzle and Ib. When you get them all in the right places, a cat will appear in the window in this room, or a new painting called the Scent-Sensitive Porcupine. Okay. On the far left of the big gray room earlier, a bunch of eyes will open up on the floor, to Gary's chagrin. Noticeably though, one of them is really bloodshot, but nothing can be done about them right now. Although to the north of this hallway there is 4 paintings. A mountain, a snake with an eye with an indent in it, a teacup, and this green thing that I can't tell what it is. To the right of these paintings there's a door that leads to another puzzle. The one where you have a ton of objects in a room and you have to push them out of the way without blocking yourself in. At the end of this puzzle there are some eye drops. Do you see where this is going yet? Grab them and go back to the bloodshot eyeball. Give them to the eyeball and it will move up, and Gary will ask to follow it. It will be looking at a wall near the north of the hallway, and if you inspect the wall there's a secret passage. Within the passage there's a red orb. Grab it and then give it to the snake painting, which will fall down and it will say, on the back of the white bust's head. But where's a white bust? Well, that teacup room where the cat went in, the window was the hint. Go back to where the cat was at the beginning of the room, and you can now see it's gone. You can go in and see 4 sculptures. A wine glass, a white bust, a colored skeleton, and a bush in the shape of misshapen bodies. Well, check the back of the white bust, and there's a ring. Take this and put this on the left ring finger of the left hand of the bride. This will cause the bride's painting to throw her bouquet. Take the bouquet and give it to a mouth on the right hand side of this room, which has a painting that will say he wants to eat flowers. Give him the bouquet and not your rose, and finish this room. Shit, this is like a portal puzzle, where you have to solve it one part at a time. The next room is still in the gray area, and it's a long hallway with a bunch of Nosferatu head painting, along with lines and lines of mannequin heads. Gary will say he doesn't like this room, as it's unnatural. The next room is, believe it or not, the third to last huge puzzle room. This room is probably the single biggest in the game. Let's go over all of it before we solve it. It has a bunch of hallways. The leftmost one has a woman painting looking over a newspaper, which is lit by a giant golden elephant with a lamp. Nothing can be done here yet. To the north, there's a bunch of different colored paintings of women again. However, they are passive, for now. A little to the right, there is a 4-digit code to be inputted on the floor, with a room to the north of it locked. To the south, there is a strange locked door with a cage attached to it. Something needs to go in this cage that is not too heavy and not too light to drop the cage and open the door, but you can't do anything with it for now. To the right, there is a ton of colored portraits of women. To the far bottom right of this room, there is a ball of golden light. Grab it, but be careful of one of the paintings that will jump out and grab you. A little bit north of this ball of light is a different painting, the Hanged Man. Looking at it, Gary will say this is his favorite Guerterna painting. If you look closely at it, on this painting, there is a hanged upside down man like a tarot card. However, on this guy's chest, it says 6952. If you try to put that code in the code input from earlier, nothing will happen. But we'll leave this here for now. The last thing to the north is a man with a description saying he is a greedy aristocrat, and he's holding a golden bird. He will drip paint down and say he wants to trade some gold that is bigger than the size of the bird. Okay, now let's break down the answer to what to do. The first thing to do is think about the Hanged Man painting. It says 6952 on it, but he's hanging upside down. So flip the numbers upside down to get 2569. But noticeably, the mannequin head has appeared near the code input. Go inside to see an unfinished gold anglerfish. If you have both the ball of light and the gold fish, you will get the gold fish lamp. In front of that though, there is a mirror. You can look in it and see a cool reflection, which is a full drawing of Ib and Gary. You can see them with their roses. And if you're wondering what the red writing is, it's just a hint of where to find the ball of light. If you stay here a while, the mannequin head will jump out and do this. It will have a slight jump scare and Gary will fall down. He will get angry and cock back his leg as if to kick it, and you have the option to quickly close your eyes or stop Gary. You might wonder what the difference is, but this can literally be, once again, a difference maker for one ending or another. Do whatever you want, but in my playthrough here, I told him to stop. Gary will agree and say, yeah, I was immature, sorry. Then you take this fish lamp and give it to the lady reading the newspaper in the previous room. She will say that this light is much brighter than the golden elephant, and she'll trade you the golden elephant for the fish light. Take that golden elephant, and if you try to put it in the cage, it won't work. So take it to the aristocrat with the gold bird, and then trade it for said gold bird. Take the gold bird and then put it in the cage, and this will open the door finally. Inside, you will get an unsettling room. There will be a white couch in which you can sit down for some reason, and above it is a portrait of Ib's parents with a key. Ib will stare at it, and Gary will ask, what's wrong? Ib will tell Gary, and he'll be startled. He wondered why it's here, and Ib will somberly ask him, where are they? Gary will say he doesn't know either, but he's sure they're here somewhere. Gary will talk to himself after saying he thought Ib was a tough kid, but he's worried this is getting to her. Which, by the way, I'm 26, and within the first minute of getting to this place, I would be on the ground crying, so don't feel bad, Ib. Try to leave this room and notice the door is locked. Banging can be heard outside. All of the exhibits from the previous room are trying to get in. Behind you, the room breaks open and a red painted lady will break through, leaving a hole. Go through the hole into the big gray room. You'll notice the mannequins and statues are now blocking passageways. But you have the gray key now. You can leave this room now. You have to race against all the painted ladies and make it to the door by going the game wants you to. There will be a time where it looks like the painted ladies are about to catch up to you and sculptures will block your way. Gary will say that it's so inconvenient, and then he will quickly ask to break the statues. Once again, do it if you think you need the time or just go along the long way. This can happen again a little later as well, but you can make it through pretty easily. The next room is a long gray hallway with Nosferatu paintings again. You and Gary can catch your breath here, while he will notice that Ib looks faint, where she will faint and have a dream about her parents looking for her and being mad at her for her wandering off alone. There are fake save points in this room here too, as well as a fake rose. And I'm pretty sure this is a new scene in the remake, and I'm not sure why they added it. But anyway, just keep going, and you'll then be told to go to the door at the end of this hallway, but when you go there, there will not be a door, and you will be caught every time. You will then wake up. Gary will have covered you in his cool-ass coat to keep you warm because the gallery is really cold, which is useless information, but it is said several times throughout the game. But you can get up, and Gary will ask, how are you doing? If you say you had a nightmare, he will make sure you're okay and say he's worried about you. He says a fully grown adult would go crazy here, let alone a kid, but he's gonna do his best to protect her. He gives her a piece of candy to try to calm her down, and he says he placed her rose in some water to make sure she was okay. He says you can rest here as long as you need before you get going again. You can get up and leave his coat on the floor, or you can give it back to him, and talk to him a bunch, and he'll talk about the gallery and himself and how he wishes he had some macaroons for some reason, and he will allow you to continue. Leave the safe room and enter the purple area now. The first room is a square room with a maze at the bottom and some artwork at the top. There's a milk puzzle at the top, and looking at it will get Gary to comment on it. On the bottom there is a fairly easy maze and then another room. Inside the room there is a painting called Separation. When you look at it, the light will go out. Gary will ask, are you still there, Ib? Which you can reply that you are, that you're not, or you can just stay silent. However, thankfully, Gary is a smoker, so he pulls out a lighter to light the room back up so you can leave. He does so, and the floor will have a red warning that any fire starters in the gallery are extremely prohibited. Gary will look at it and look pale. He says he wants to leave this room because this room isn't good for his mental health. And really, Gary, this is the room that isn't good for your mental health, not the whole gallery. Outside, there's now a red crayon streaked across the floor leading north to a now unlocked door. Go inside, and a blonde girl will then bump into you guys. Gary will ask if she's okay, and it's a relief to see another person. Another real person from the gallery, at least. When Gary tries to help her up, she will not let him touch her. She will get up, and Gary will ask if everything that's happened to him and Ib has happened to her too. She will say yes meekly, and then you guys will introduce each other. This is Mary. She says she wanted to get out or find someone. Gary says, yeah, them too, and they should stick together. Mary said, it's nice to meet you guys. She'll say hi to Ib, and you can continue. Go forward and see a note on the wall that says, which one is real? Seemingly, this means nothing for now, but it's foreshadowing something, and let's leave it at that. Gary will ask Mary if she has a rose too, and a little further down she will say, yeah, she does actually, a yellow rose. Oh, and Gary has a blue rose, and Ib has a red one. Mary likes red, she likes pink, she likes yellow. Gary will get annoyed and say, learn to listen, would you? To himself. Walk a little further and find an empty brown painting called Flowers of Jealousy. It's then a fork in the road. The left door is locked, so right door it is. The right door is filled with, seemingly, ceramic bunnies in a giant painting of a pink bunny with red eyes. Looking at its plaque, calls it Red Eyes. Fitting. Gary will say that this painting, this room is really unsettling. Mary will say, what are you talking about? It's cute, right, Ib? Which, I mean, I guess it's a little unsettling, but Gary seems to be overreacting here, right? After which, one of the ceramic bunnies will fall on the shelf and break. You can find a key in it and grab it. Great. Leave the room, and when you get in front of the brown painting, this will happen. You and Mary will be separated from Gary. Well, damn. He will say, continue on and look for a way to cut the vines down separating you. Go left with just Mary and find another storage room, and you can find nothing in here but a palette knife, which I guess is useful for slight protection, but it sure as hell won't cut the vines down. The lights will go out, and then a statue bust will block your way out of this room, leaving you only one way to go. Forward without Gary. This will lead you to my least favorite area in the game, the brown area. I know what I'm doing in it, but I always mix up the order really bad. But before you get to the brown area puzzle, there's a long winding hallway. Ink will appear on the wall saying, I want you to have fun, Ib. Come to a fun world without any grown-ups. We'll be together. You, me, and our friends. The room after this hallway will show a blue rose icon on the floor and a hole that is impassable. If you stand on the blue rose icon, Mary will say she wonders how Gary's doing. We kind of left him behind. This will then show Gary alone. You now switch perspectives to Gary, who will say, it's been a while. He's wondering how those two are doing. He hopes they didn't get lost. Gary has one extra health point for some reason, and for this area, Gary will still be in the purple area, and Ib and Mary will be in the brown area now. He says, well, he guess he has no choice but to go back into that dreaded room. Go back inside, and the room is a lot different. All the rabbits are now this blue, evil-looking doll, but only for Gary's POV. He will say he doesn't care what those two say. This room is not cute. However, the bookshelf at the top right of this room now has some marks on it near the floor. You can move it and continue. This next room has a red rose icon on the floor. You can now switch between the two parties from these icons on the floor. For this next room, you will be going back and forth between both parties to solve puzzles for the other person, for the other party, which I would say is cool if it wasn't so stupid that it hurts my brain sometimes. For the first set of rooms, Gary will have 5 ropes. Some of them will drop mannequin heads that will break on the floor, or hands that grab petals from his rose. But which one should you pull? Well, if you go back to Ib and look at the ceiling, the second to last rope is over a painting. If you pull that one down as Gary, it will drop the painting down and you can cross over and drop down the moon symbol for Gary, which can be in turn used for him to drop the vines and continue. Gary can continue along this long hallway with one of those creepy dolls following him, and it keeps writing on the walls and asking him to play with it. At the end of the hallway, Gary will get annoyed, and you will have the choice to kick it out of the way or just move it gently. Mary and Ib will go forward to get to a room with a bunch of stars. Mary will say it's very pretty, and then ask Ib a really weird question. If only two of you could get out, which would you want to leave? You can choose Ib and Gary, Ib and Mary, or why are you asking that? As of right now, on my playthrough, I said, why are you asking? Which she says she doesn't know, she's just curious. Okay, stay with me here. This next room is very confusing and the one I was talking about that I hate because it's so confusing, and I have zero clue how I am about to describe this because it has both Gary and Ib/Mary, and they both have different puzzles to affect each other. So I guess I will just start with Gary. In Gary's room here, the objective is to find 7 different colored orbs for the palette at the top left of the room. As soon as you walk in, there's a yellow orb. Grab it. On the right side of this room, there is a set of hands coming out of a painting. Next to it, there's a blue painting with a hook on it, and next to both of those is a room. We'll get into that room in a second. Under those, there will be a triptych of a snake next to something that is a painting called the Juggler, who, if you talk to it, he will ask what date he was painted. We don't know that. So next, under the Juggler, there's a room with noxious gas that will kill you if you walk over the vents with the gas. Okay, cool. Now let's describe Ib and Mary's room. This room to the north in here is all black and white, and a bridge is missing, so it's useless for now. To the south, there's another door next to a mirror, which will ask you to take a quiz, and it will quiz you to name several of the paintings that you have seen so far in the game, which, if you've been paying attention, it should be easy. And that will unlock the door, but we'll get back to this room. On the right side of the room, there's another snake triptych and a painting with a boat. South of there, there's a room with a bunch of shells and a painting of a lady in the rain. Okay, finally, let's get to the solution of this giant-ass room. The first thing to do is solve the painting name puzzles as Ib. Like I said before, if you were paying attention, it's not hard at all. Inside the room, there's a rolled up paper of a purple line with a heart pattern. Also is a book of dates of when all the paintings were created. Find the Juggler and find out it was made in the year 6223. Take the heart pattern and go to the snake triptych on Ib's side. Mary will say it looks just like the painting, and you can replace the belly part of the snake in this painting, which will seemingly do nothing for you. But if you switch back to Gary and go to his snake triptych, the snake will spit up the heart. Take the heart and give it to the hands. Doing so will unlock the door near it. Inside this room, there are 2 paths, one with a bunch of books, and the other with a painting of an ear and some more colored orbs, and 1 extra book. Finally, there's a locked room near the entrance. On the left side, there's a book that tells you about color. Inside, you will find the second colored orb, and that's the green one. Also in this room, there is an umbrella. Take it. Leave this room and put the Juggler's date in to get the blue orb. That makes 3. You can also attach the umbrella to the hook in that one painting. Then go back to Eve's POV. Here, now, the fisherman painting has an umbrella. Grab it and then go to the room with the shells and give the umbrella to the lady in the rain. She will take it and the room will start raining, I guess? One of the shells will turn into a turtle and he will make a stool for you to get to the painting that was too high up in this room. Flip the painting upside down and switch back to Gary. Go down to the gas room and find that the gas is now turned off in such a way that will leave you with 1 HP if you go through and grab everything. Grab the purple orb, and at the bottom of the room, you can once again flip the painting, take the star piece, and put it in the indentation. This will turn up the vines in the northernmost room. Go through, grab the pink orb, but then look at the book we talked about near the ear. It seems normal, but if you go to the M section of the book of Guertena's work, you'll find Mary, the last work of Guertena's life. While the girl appears almost lifelike, she of course is not based on a real person either. So, Mary is also an artwork. she's not human. She doesn't exist. If you stay in the room, Gary will talk to himself and say, she isn't real? He needs to get to Ib now and save her. The ear in there will hear what Gary says, and it will say that now it knows Mary's secret. Going down towards the entrance of the room will have a doll that Gary could have kicked earlier with an item stuffed in it. A red orb. Now you're just missing one. The doll will just fly away into the locked room. You can enter this room and find the final orb. The blue creepy dolls are in here too though. Try and leave and find the door is locked. The room will become blue, and then it will trust you into the make or break moment of the entire game. This very specific moment is the turning point. If you mess this up, this will lock you out of several endings. However, if you do it right, you will also be locked out of several different endings. Choose wisely. You have about 30 seconds to search all of the dolls in the room, one of which has a key. Also remember way back in the yellow area, where you played hide and seek with the stick man? Remember how I said be careful about finding the patient of Ib falling dead? If you found it, for some reason, this trial is significantly harder. How? Well, I believe that it is impossible to find the key during the first 5 searches in this room. But remember, we are talking about my playthrough here on this one, and we will go through all the ending variations after the main summary. So, I found the key, and as the blue doll in the painting is slowly coming out of it to kill Gary, Gary escapes. He will catch his breath, but quickly remember he has to get to Ib. The palette is out of the way now after the 7 colors have been collected, and you can continue as Gary. Back as Ib though, you can go back to that black and white room and find that it is now colorful from the palette. You can find a key in here and take it out. When you leave, Mary will be looking in front of a painting getting very upset at something, as the lips on this painting move. She gets really upset, saying that Mary and Ib need to leave now. She will go south and try to move a statue. Leave her behind and use this key on a locked door. Going in, Mary will follow slowly behind you, asking, why are you looking away from her? Why aren't you helping her anymore? Why are you trying to go back to Gary? She will corner you and Gary will run up the stairs just in time and push her to the ground and grab Ib. She will drop a yellow rose, and touching it, Gary will explain. Mary, just like the yellow rose, is fake. She's painted, not a real person. Kind of weird I made this video right after I played Expedition 33, by the way. Gary will say he was worried sick about Ib. However, go to where Mary was and Gary can move the statue she was trying to move, allowing you to get to the very abyss of the exhibit, the final area of the game. Go down the stairs and get to this area. The path turns to crayon drawings and the background is now poorly drawn. The next room, with toy box music by the way, has a room that is seemingly useless with 2 paths. The easy path and the hard path. The hard one will do an Undertale bullet hell on you if you get near it, and you'll get a diamond, which Gary will break immediately. Great. The bottom path is nothing. Further on, you will get to the final area of this game, the toy box. It is a 3x3 map with 9 different locations, which is another big puzzle room. But this one isn't so bad. Top left, there is a room with poorly drawn sunlight next to a door with an eye on it. The top middle is a room with a bunch of stars and a door blocked with black crayon all over it, making it so you can't go in. The top right room is a lake with some mushrooms. The middle left room is a locked door and some trees with some fruit on them. The middle room is an exit, but it's locked. The middle right is a room with a bunch of flowers. The bottom left is a butterfly farm. The bottom middle is a drawing with horses all over with Ib and Mary on them. And the bottom right has a footprint, and it's where you come in at. There's a map here, and Gary will say, what an unsettling change of pace. This is where that music track plays, by the way, that we talked about earlier, the one called No One in Sight, the more unsettling one. And it's the most unsettling area in the game because of that track and how empty this place feels. It's also poorly drawn, like a child drew it all. It's just an unnatural place. The first thing you can do here is look at the building in the middle left area. It will be locked, but it just says read the message in the middle of the map. Do so, and the message will say the toy key always goes back in the toy box. After you read it, you can go into that previous building. It looks like a child's drawing of a house. Inside, you can find a bucket. Grab it, and as you leave, Mary will re-enter the picture. She will call out, "Where are you two?" She'll look around and then just leave. Take said bucket and go to the lake at the top right of the map. If you put your rose in this lake, you take damage, so don't do that. Put the bucket of water in the lake to grab some fake water. Then go to the south to the middle right room where there is a wilted tulip, and if you splash the water on it, it will drop a mirror. Take that mirror to the top left and redirect the sun to the eyeball to wake up the door and open it. In this room, there is a line of symbols and then a map again of buttons. The symbols order are horse, mushroom, cherries on a tree, sun, fish, star, footprint, and butterfly. If you have a keen eye, you realize that every symbol has a corresponding room on this 3x3 map. Input the correct code and get a piece of pink chalk. Take the pink chalk and draw over all the black parts of the door in the top middle of the map. Going inside will be a white room with just a toy box in it. Look inside and Gary will say, "Wow, it looks deep." He wonders how deep it is, and behind you you'll hear, "You want to find out?" You'll be kicked into the toy box by Mary, and you will fall all the way down into a deep pit. Inside it is an amalgamation of drawings of everything in the gallery, and you lose your rose in the fall, and Gary is also nowhere to be found. If you find Gary, he will say he hit his head, but he's fine. But never mind that. You two need to find Ib's rose right now. Walk around and you can find a key as well as your rose. Take them both and the room will turn blue and the entire floor will be covered in red crayon. Everything in the room will then become alive and hostile and chase you. You have to run north to a room covered in vines. Go up to it and Gary will say, "Oh, he remembers he has his lighter. He can use it here." Go up into this room blocked by the vines and the music will stop. Gary will say, "Something is different here. The air is really heavy. Something's wrong." But look at the end of the room. At the end of the room is Mary's painting without Mary in it. She will come up and catch you. She will say, "How are you two okay?" Then say, "You need to leave. Now. Leave. Leave." Get to the painting and you will have 3 options. Tear it down, rip it, or burn it. Doing the first 2 will not work and she will catch up and kill you instantly. If you burn it, however, Mary will turn to ash. Gary will say, "We thought we were done for, but I guess that's it." Gary will ask if Ib got hit by the glass when the fire shattered it, but she didn't. Gary did, however, and is bleeding on his hand. You can offer him his handkerchief from the beginning of the game, but he will say it's nice and opulent looking. Don't worry about the cut. Don't waste the handkerchief on him. Well, with that over, go to the center of the toy box to get to the last area, the black area. The ending area of the other side of Cortena's world is just a copy of the beginning of the game, but instead of a white background gallery, it's a black one. Well, it would make sense to go to the top floor again. It's where the painted world painting was, so go there again. When you get there, the frame will disappear. Gary will jump in and put his hand out telling you to jump. But behind you, your mother? She will say she's been looking everywhere for you. She's been waiting for you with your father. Gary will say, "Do not listen to her. Jump back in the painting." Ib's mother will say, "Don't follow strangers. What are you doing? Don't you want to see your mother and father again?" They will both say Ib in unison. You have a choice to make. trust Gary or trust your mother. The most obvious thing to do here is trust Gary. He's clearly been with you the whole time. This Ib's mother could be a painted person. So, in my case here, I jumped back in the painting. You'll be transported back to a white gallery. A text box will say, "You can't remember what you were doing. It seems you've forgotten all about the world of Gortena. Nothing stuck in your head, or Gary's. Go downstairs to look for your parents, but they're not there. Wander around a bit until you find Gary. He's looking at a rose sculpture. You can ask him, what's this exhibit called? He'll say it's called Embodiment of Spirit. But what are you doing here, little lady?" Ib will stand next to him, and he will say, he doesn't know why, but looking at this rose sculpture makes him feel a strange melancholic feeling. He says he shouldn't be saying things like that out of the blue to a stranger. He'll apologize and leave. Ib's mother will come down and say, "Oh, there she is." She looks at the rose and says, "Gortena said it represented a heart." She's like, "Come on, Ib, let's go check the rest of the gallery out." Ib and her mom will walk off screen. That being it. The ending called Memory's Crannies. Anyway, that's about it. I love this game, and well, we're not quite done with the video though. And we won't get into the analysis until we get over all the endings and variations. So without breaking the flow of the video too much more, let's get into those endings. The endings of Ib are pretty varied and all have different outcomes. The way to get them all is also not written anywhere in the game, and I believe it has been found out through the code, I assume, or guessing and checking. Now, when you're thinking about the endings, there are 3 things to keep in mind as you go through the game to decide which ending you want. The first is something called Gary's death counter, because although yes, in the playthrough we covered, Gary did not die, he absolutely can die in 2 different places. That being in the room with the dolls when you search for the key as him on the timer, and after getting pushed into the toy box by Mary at the end. Gary's death meter can be raised between 0 and 8, and generally is raised whenever you do not respect the artwork of the gallery. If you kick the mannequin head after the mirror, that's +1. If you push the sculptures out of the way before the nightmare, that's +1. Same thing with the alternate route in the same room, another +1. When Mary asks you who you'd rather escape with when you split up, if you say Ib and Gary, that's +1. If you pull the 3rd string in the rope puzzle to drop the mannequin head, that's +1. When the doll follows you when Gary is alone, if you kick it out of the way, that is +1. And finally, if Gary fails the doll puzzle, that is +2. Then there is Gary's bond meter. Getting this above 9 is the only way to get the best ending. If you stop Gary from kicking the mannequin head in the mirror, that's +2. If you give him back his coat after Ib's nightmare, that is +2. If you talk to him when the lights turn out, it's +1. If Gary fails the doll puzzle and has no death meter besides that +2, you can snap him out of his delusions and get +3. When you get pushed into the toy box by Mary, if you talk to him about how Ib feels, it's +1. If you talk to Gary 10 or more times when you're not looking at anything, it's +1. If you talk to him 20 or more times when not looking at anything, it's +2. You can also talk to Gary in several unique locations, and if you do, you get +1 as well. Those unique locations require backtracking, and those are the walking stool, the ant, the cat, the safe room, the milk puzzle, the hard route with the diamond when he breaks it, the flan, and the sunlight. Getting 9 or more points on that list puts you in the running for the best ending. Finally, the last thing we talk about before the actual endings is Mary's bond meter. To get the 2 worst endings, her bond meter has to be 6 or higher. The ways to raise it are, being in New Game Plus is +1. Gary's death meter being higher than 7 is +1. Looking at the painting of Ib falling and dying in the hide and seek room is +1. When Mary asks who you want to escape with, do not ask her why she's asking you that question and you'll get +1. Gary failing the doll puzzle is +1. And finally, do not try to smack Gary out of it after he fails the doll puzzle to get the final +1. Okay, with all the technical stuff out of the way, you can see this flowchart I made to show you how to get each ending. I'll do my best to upload it somehow in the description or something so you can see it at full size. But this is how you get all the endings. So let's start with the worst two. A painting's demise. Get Mary's bond gauge to 6 and then have Gary fail the doll puzzle. When Gary fails the doll puzzle, he will not save you from Mary like in the main route. You will have to go and find him yourself. You will see him talking to himself after failing the doll route, and if you're going for this ending, he will not be able to be snapped out of it. He will just stay on the ground, muttering to himself. Seemingly insane. Ib will notice this and come to the conclusion that he cannot be saved anymore. Ib will then sit next to him and presumably die right there with him without even going to the final area of the game. Mary will notice this and tell Ib to hurry up and continue, just leave Gary. Ib will still not move though and sit with Gary until the end. Mary will say that they need to keep moving, and if they don't, she will just leave her there, which she will. After Mary leaves, you will then play as Mary and skip the whole toy box area. Noticeably, something cool is if you check your inventory as Mary, and instead of the normal inventory screen like with Gary and Ib, it is noticeably a coloring book with a bunch of splotches all over it. When you get back to the painting that brought Ib and Gary here, Mary will say she's so excited to finally leave the world of Gortena. She will be able to eat food like a normal girl and live like a normal girl and make lots of friends and have fun finally. But noticeably, when she leaves, footsteps can be heard behind her. When she gets back to the real gallery, there is no one waiting for her. It's empty. When she tries to leave the gallery outright through the front door, she says she wants to go outside and it will lock. You can then hear the constant sounds of footsteps above you, and a message near the entrance will say, "It's too late." Going back to the room will just show a window now, no World of Gortena painting. Well, Mary will say, there has to be some way to get out, right? Soon, every footstep will make things darker. Messages will show up and the red rose exhibit will say, "Your heart is fake." All the exhibits will fall apart around you. Mary will cry out as the screen gets darker and darker, "Someone help me. I'm scared." And as the lights go out, she will cry out for Ib or Gary or Dad. And then the ending happens. All that's left is the sound of a ticking clock. A painting's demise. The next ending that is very similar is also a bad ending, and it is called Welcome to the World of Gortena. The way you get this one is the same way as the last, but when asked who you would leave with when Mary asks, say Mary and Ib and not Gary. She will say she hopes she gets out with you too. You two will be able to eat candy and play games and have so much fun together. Go fail the doll puzzle with Gary, and Ib will do the same thing and sit next to Gary and pretty much decide to die with him. Only this time Mary will say, "Ib, please get up, I'll do my best to get us both out." She will say, "We need to get out, please, Ib." She'll then say the same thing and say she'll leave here, she's serious if she doesn't get up. Mary will say, "Okay, if this is what she wants," and then leaves the room. But then immediately comes back. She'll say, she can't leave without Ib. They're friends, right? She always dreamed about going outside, and she doesn't want to do it without Ib. They are friends, right? She read a storybook once that you don't leave your friends behind, so she refuses to leave Ib behind. She'll then turn to Gary and ask if he wants to stay too. She'll then say that she'll have to throw them both a welcoming party for this place now. It will cut to said party, and Mary will say welcome to her new friends, and Gary and Ib will lie dead on the floor and their roses getting plucked by painted women. She will grab Gary's lighter and say, "That's not allowed here, Gary, you should know better." She wants to throw it in the and a weird subtitle will tell her it's called the trash, remember? She'll say, "Oh yeah, the trash." She'll give it to the painting and say, "Now Ib, her, and Gary can play forever and ever." And that is Welcome to the World of Gortena. If you're wondering who the dad is in the first ending we talked about, and who is the subtitles, I think it's Gortena himself somehow, but we'll discuss that in the analysis. The next three endings are pretty easy to get if you know what to do, and it's the three normal endings. The first one is Memory's Crannies, which we talked about, and it's the one we got in our playthrough. It involves keeping Gary's death counter under 3, but his bond also below 9. It's sort of a bittersweet ending involving you let Gary live, however not bond with him enough to remember you. Like we saw, you and Gary just both leave the painting and you won't remember any of it. Just vague feelings. Gary will look at the rose sculpture and say he doesn't know why, but it makes him sad, and he's enamored by the rose exhibit. He'll say goodbye and you'll never see him again. That is Memory's Crannies. The saddest ending is somehow not considered a bad ending, and it is having Gary over the 3 death counter but below 7 death counter. Things will continue normal until Mary pushes you inside the toy box. Instead of you waking Gary up, he will wake you up instead. He will worry over you and say, "Oh no, you lost your rose." You can look down in the toy box and you can't find it, but you can find a key, like normal, and when you grab it, you can hear Mary down there with you now too. She will have Ib's rose. You and Gary will warily go up to her, worried. They ask Mary to give it back, but Mary says, "I don't know. She really likes this rose, but maybe if Gary traded his rose for Ib's, she'd allow it because she likes blue more than red." Gary will smile at you and say, "Okay, we will do that." She will trade you and Gary's rose and say yay and just run away. Continue forward like normal until you see blue petals lining the hallway up ahead. You can hear Mary play loves me not, loves me not in the next room as you continue. Gary will slow down and say, "Hold on for a second, Ib. He just needs to catch his breath for a second." He looks at Ib sorrowfully and says he wants to tell her the truth of what's going to happen, but he also wants to protect her feelings. He then says, "Go on without him. He's just going to rest on the wall. He'll catch up with her soon." Continue forward alone and be blocked by the thorns like normal. Go back to Gary and see that he's slumped on the wall, dead. If you inspect him, Ib will say she thinks he's sleeping. You can take his lighter and go continue as normal. Burn Mary's painting, and when you jump in the painting, instead of Ib's mom trying to convince her to stay, Gary will come back and say, "She doesn't want to leave without him, right? Come on, let's go back. They've stuck together so far, so come on, let's go. Don't jump in the painting." This is obviously another illusion by Cortana. Just leave, and when you get back to the normal gallery, you can go up to that hanged man portrait that Gary was looking at in the intro, but it will be replaced by a painting called Forgotten Portrait, and it is of Gary dead, or quote-unquote sleeping, on the wall. Ib's dad will come up to her and say, "Come on, her mother's waiting for them so they can walk around the gallery together," leaving the portrait behind. That is Forgotten Portrait. To get Ib alone, it's really easy and quick. The way to get it is just to ignore Gary or yourself when an illusion of the portrait tries to convince you to stay in the painting instead of jumping through it in any playthrough. It will just result in a black screen and says, "Ib all alone." I believe there's another way to get this ending involving falling asleep on a bed forever in the gallery somewhere, but I'm not sure where that is. But it results in the same thing of Ib all alone. Okay, then we have the 2 best endings, those being Together Forever and Promise of Reunion. The worst of the 2 is Together Forever. To get this ending, all you have to do is have Gary's death meter between 3 and 7, and when he dies in the toy box, like we mentioned entries ago, leave the lighter behind and just take the key and leave the toy box without burning Mary's portrait. No one will try to convince you to stay this time, and when you get back to the real gallery and try to find your parents, Mary will be there too. She will ask your mom, "Hey mommy, what's for dinner tonight?" Mary then will notice you and greet you as a sister. It would appear this ending is Mary rewriting everyone's memories to have her and Ib be sisters. They will all leave the exhibit prematurely because Mary says she's hungry. Ib and Mary will talk about where Mary says they'll go together, and they'll be together forever and ever as friends. If you have Gary's lighter but didn't burn the thorns, she will take it off you and you both will wonder why you have a lighter. You'll be shown an ending screen for this ending with Mary leading Ib along and they are both happy. However, something I love about this ending that is so cool is if you look at both of their shadows in this ending screen, Ib's shadow is normal, but Mary's shadow is scribbled on the ground with crayon. which is such a cool detail to show that she isn't real, or she's an art piece, or whatever. I do like this ending solely for that detail a lot. The final best ending is called Promise of Reunion. Just do everything you did in my playthrough that I did for the summary, but in addition to that, make sure to always talk to Gary, even backtrack to do so, and get his bond to 9 or higher, and make sure Gary's death meter is below 3. Do everything I did in my playthrough with all of that in tow, and when Gary cuts his hand on the glass after you burn Mary's portrait, this time, if you offer Ib's handkerchief, he will say that he's surprised you're giving it to him, and he'll accept it. He'll grab it and say he accidentally got blood on it, but he'll give it back after he cleans it. Continue as normal when you get to the part at the very end where Gary is looking at the rose sculpture. He will once again say he doesn't know why, but this exhibit makes him incredibly sad. He'll say he doesn't know why he's talking to some random young girl about it though. He's sorry for rambling. He'll say, "See you later, Ib." He'll then pause. Ib? Who's Ib? Ib will say it's her. And he will say, "Now why does he know her name?" Oh well. He'll walk away and put his hands in his pockets and pull out a handkerchief. It says Ib on it, and has blood on it. He looks at it, and a flash of memory goes past. He remembers the end, and then he remembers the whole thing, the gallery and everything. He will cry and say, "Ib, they did it! They got back to safety." There's so much more he wants to talk about with her, but he has to get going right now. But this isn't goodbye. They'll meet again soon, and they'll have macaroons together. He'll return the handkerchief good and clean, because they'll see each other again. Gary will then leave, and then the credits will roll, and at the end you'll get this nice picture of them saying goodbye and have a promise to meet again. That is about it though for Ib. There's an extra mode in the remake called the True Gallery, and I'm not 100% sure because I haven't played it, but I believe it's just an extra mode and it wasn't in the original. So I assume there's no more story there, but it could be a nice little thing to look into to see all the artwork. But what's the story of this game chronologically? What actually happened? Well, let's start with that. It would seem that there is an artist who existed named Guertena. He made several art pieces, and although it's not clear how, this art inhabits some in-between like limbo, possibly because he put so much time and love into it. The gallery became a type of tulpa almost, or something, making it an actual plane of existence because so much thought was put into it, making it a real place. Mary was the last artwork that Guertena created with all of his heart, and she rules over this limbo, able to control all the living paintings and artworks. She, however, has gained sentience and wants to leave to be her own person and not just be an artwork. She finds and lures in Ib and inadvertently Gary, I guess. Whatever happens in the art in the world of Guertena is up to you in those endings. But if Mary gets her way and leaves without Ib, she realizes she is forever trapped in the gallery no matter what. If Ib and Gary get out, they can either remember each other or not, making the artwork create a real bond between the two people. But what is the message or theme of this work? I realize sometimes some of the things I cover are just a good story and have no message, but I always like to look deeper and see why people like forms of art that are like video games or books or movies. I like to look for themes and messages, and whether they are put there intentionally or not. So what is the theme or message of Ib? I believe there's a couple messages here that I really like, but the main one that I want to cover is how art can actually transcend memory and concrete things to convey feelings, even if we do not know why, kind of like the game itself. Two endings point to this fact very heavily. In Memory's Crannies, despite Ib and Gary not remembering each other, they both look at the rose sculpture with such sadness, without really knowing why. Even if their memory of the event no longer happened, the artwork still elicits their unconscious to portray that emotion to them. In the best ending, Promise of Reunion, the bonds of friendship through trauma and this artwork persist even after insurmountable odds of a memory wipe, showing how connection through an art piece can lead to a wonderful bond. I sort of see myself in this, as I like to show all of you viewers all the wonderful art pieces that elicit emotions in me and convey why I like them and make videos on them. And I feel I have created a genuine bond with all of you through the artwork I cover, whether that be Fear and Hunger, House of Leaves, No Skin, or anything. I want to cover the art that conveys the emotion to me the most, and I feel I have formed a connection to all of you through the artwork, just like this game. This game is that whole idea personified to me, because emotions through art can bring people together, like all of you wonderful people to me, and I truly love all of you for it. I'm sure there are more themes to this beautiful game that I missed, and that is what I want to hear what you think the game means in the comments to you. And I'm glad that you watched and listened to my story in the intro and the analysis of why this work means so much to me. I've even considered getting a tattoo of this game because it means so much to me. But anyway, thank you so much for taking this journey with me through this wonderful game of my childhood. I love you all, and I will see you next time with another book. Thank you for watching. Bye.